Things are better. The world is better.
Just because there's not a war doesn't mean there's peace. He's coming.
Some call him Apocalypse. He was some kind of god. For thousands of years, he's been amassing mutants to take their powers. He always had 4 followers.
Like the 4 horsemen.
Eric, don't join them.
Whatever it is you think you saw in me, I buried it with my family.
Together, we will cleanse the earth.
Everything they've built will fall! And from the ashes of their world, we'll build a better one!
I've never felt power like this before. They took him. Raven, the world needs the X-Men.
I'm not a hero.
Students look up to you.
If I'm going to teach your kids something, I'm going to teach them how to fight. Follow me!
You're her.
I'm not afraid of him. Magneto, he's my father.
What?
Him and my mom, they did.
No, I know.
Not all of us can control our powers.
Then don't.
Apocalypse means to destroy this world.
It's all of us against a god. And the most powerful beings on Earth.
Forget everything you think you know. None of that matters. You're not students anymore.
We'll take everything from them.
You're X-Men. Well, you've been busy.
We had a little help.
Hey YouTubers, it's Charlie. So new X-Men Apocalypse trailer, let's break it down. Just teasing some of the action of the film. I think this is paced a lot better than previous trailers. The real surprise is the end of the trailer where it's like, we had some help, and then you see Wolverine pop his claws. I think we all expected him to be in the movie, but there really hadn't been anything official about his participation. They've mostly been focusing on developing the new Wolverine movie, and I'll talk about this after I talk about X-Men Apocalypse stuff. So Apocalypse, trailer picks up, everybody's having a great time. It's the 80s, it's several years, or at least a couple years after the last movie. The school's doing really well. Mystique is much more socialized in this movie. A lot of the damage that we saw during X-Men Days of Future Past to her character has been repaired. If you remember way back to the beginning of that movie, she was basically on this one-woman mission to free all these mutants. She was hardcore, so she's chilled out a little bit, and she and Charles aren't on the outs anymore. But you can tell that she's still worried about Magneto. So when she says she's worried about him coming back, worried about something that's going to be coming, she's talking about Magneto. None of them know about Apocalypse yet. It seems like they don't really learn about him till Jean Grey has her vision of the future. Then they go talk to Moira McTaggart, who's like, well, there's all these legends about this mythical figure. Maybe he's not so mythical. Maybe he's an actual person. We see Apocalypse taking his ancient technology. This version of the origin story also looks like it posits that he basically took most of his abilities from this alien being, or at least this other mutant. If you haven't read the comics, Apocalypse is one of the earliest mutants. He's not the very earliest mutant, but he's definitely one of the first. So in the comics, he's already born looking like he looks right here, but the way he gets his celestial armor, the way he gets his ship, all the technology that he uses is slightly different than what the movie is going with. Kang the Conqueror is a big part of his origin story in the comics, but that's a Marvel character, I think. They might have rights to that character. So we'll just have to wait and see how the movie explains who this Celestial is. But we see Apocalypse stealing all his toys and leeching his abilities, like integrating his life force with his own. But if it wasn't clear, he was already a mutant before he gained all these special toys. And I like the idea that he's stealing powers, like he's stealing the powers of this celestial being. So just really excited to see this play out. There's this heavy mythology to the film, and then there's all like the really fun X-Men moments that you're waiting for. Like this really funny moment with Quicksilver and Mystique, where he's like, oh yeah, Magneto, he's totally my dad. And she's just like, what? What the fudge did you just say? In the comics, Magneto is Quicksilver's father, but they were coy about that during Days of Future Past. They had that funny joke where he's like, Yeah, my mom used to hang out with a guy who could control metal, and Michael Fassbender's reaction is just priceless. He looks into the distance, and you see him do the mental math in his head, like, is this kid my son? Okay, well, we have a bigger problem here. Maybe I'll think about this later. The way they've explained Magneto in this movie is that he's basically at the end of his rope, like he's completely lost his faith in humanity and mutant kind. He's walked off the chessboard and is just like, I can't deal anymore. Peace, I'm out. But Apocalypse finds him, and like all cult leaders, he's really charismatic, gives him new purpose, and Magneto drinks the Kool-Aid. He says his family has died, so they'll probably address that through Quicksilver's origin story. If you haven't seen it in a while, go back and watch First Class, where Sebastian Shaw is like this evil Nazi scientist that just pulls his abilities out of him. I'm gonna shoot your mother, here's some trauma, show me what you can do, like just to try to get his abilities to manifest. But the movie is an X-Men story. Family is always a big idea of the X-Men. They're this big family that's come together, like the family you choose for yourself versus the family you're born with. So it always comes back to that, like what would you do to save your family? Apocalypse puts together his special family of 4 horsemen. I really like the look on Psylocke's face here. She's having so much more fun than everyone else in this movie right now. And I talked a little bit about her origin story in the last big trailer video that I did, but her origin story is a little bit like those of the other 4 horsemen in the movie. Like they've been abused physically, mentally for a long time, so they're in this really weak place. So this crazy cult leader comes along and like shows them the new way. So Apocalypse is preying on people in weak positions like that. So when we see him go around and collect all these characters, you'll get an inkling of their origin story. Like you see Angel here fighting in these pits, like he's forced to fight in this crazy fight club here. We actually see, there was a picture they released of him fighting the Blob. So the Blob is going to be back in this movie, which will be pretty cool. But one of the other big characters I haven't talked a lot about is Jubilee. She's going to be part of Xavier's school. So she'll be like friends with Jean Grey, the recast version of Cyclops. There's a lot of characters that are familiar that they've cast younger versions of. Like Sophie Turner is playing the new Jean Grey. So some of them you'll totally recognize. Jubilee you might recognize from the animated series back in the 90s, which is still a really great cartoon. You should go back and watch it if you have the chance. She was brought into the X-Men comics a long time ago when Kitty Pryde left. She was kind of like a replacement for Kitty Pryde. She was supposed to be like the young teenage character on the team. On the cartoon series, she was more of a valley girl, so they paired her up with Wolverine a lot. Like, oh my god, I gotta take care of this kid. I don't know how to take care of kids at all. And this is like the most teenage version of a character you could ever get. So it was just a lot of funny moments between her and Wolverine. But really big things to get excited about. The new version of Storm, she's gonna be badass. Can't wait to see them take Jean Grey in a Dark Phoenix direction. I definitely think that's where the X-Men films are headed after this, towards the Dark Phoenix saga. And just to address it, I know a lot of people will be like, well, are they going to cross Deadpool over with the X-Men movies? Not right away. I think they want Deadpool to exist in its own small universe. The X-Men movies really do build this universe out. They use Deadpool to deconstruct it, to make fun of all the little inconsistencies, all the changes they make to the timeline. So I think they want to keep doing that. I think it worked really well. So they're like, okay, we're not going to mess with that formula right away. But I definitely think eventually you'll see Deadpool with other X-Men characters, like these big X-Men characters, and probably more when they get to the New Mutants X-Force movies. New Mutants is like the next big movie they've been talking about. And I know Game of Thrones just premiered. Maisie Williams is in talks to join that. They haven't really confirmed anything, but she might end up being the Wolfsbane character. So I just love the idea of her being a Stark, direwolf to Wolfsbane in an X-Men franchise. What about the Wolverine rumors, though? So I feel like we're all pretty sure they're going to be doing the Old Man Logan storyline for the next Wolverine movie. It'll be in the far future, so there'll be a little distance from the events of that movie and the events of this movie because it's taking place during the 80s. And Old Man Logan is like this post-apocalyptic story. Like he's lived so long that all the people he knew have died or turned into villains. So really the big rumor is that they're going to bring the X-23 character in, and it's either going to come through the Wolverine movie or it's going to come through the X-Men franchise. And after Hugh Jackman fades off into the distance, after he's done making his last X-Men-based film, playing the Wolverine character, she will fill that void. If you don't know who X-23 is, she's Wolverine's daughter. She has the 3 claws, but 2 of them are in her hands. The 3rd claw on both of her limbs are on her feet. So she can make a claw stick out of her feet and 2 out of her hands. But functionally, she has all the abilities, all the powers of Wolverine. But there's a whole bunch of comic book stuff happening in the movie. When it actually drops, there'll be a big Easter egg video. I'll explain all the stuff that they did from the comics. Like, I'm really excited that they're addressing the idea that Magneto is Quicksilver's father. And it'll be a lot of fun to go back and read some of the old Apocalypse stories. I'm gonna have to go back and read some Apocalypse comics. But let me know, what's your favorite moment from the trailer? There's actually gonna be a really big month. So we have Captain America coming next week. Then we have this movie coming at the end of the month. So May is gonna be a huge month for really big movies. Whole bunch of really awesome comic book stuff happening this week. So while you guys wait for my next video to post, you can click here for last night's Game of Thrones episode 1 video. All kinds of crazy catfishing going on. So it was one of the best episodes ever. And you can click here to learn all about Apocalypse's origin story from the comics. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Let's high five. I'll see you guys tonight.